And we're back with ANTEC cases. We haven't done a review of ANTEC case for maybe a couple of weeks, but here it is. We have the ANTEC NX360, and with that we have something to pair it up with. We have the CSK 550 watts. This is Supreme Strike 80 plus bronze power supply, which isn't modular, but for I would say budget mid-range budget, I would say budget range builds, it will be quite alright. And basically we're having something like that. It's not a budget build, but still this power supply can power up this build and do some quite nice wonders. It has 5 years, so 3+2 extended warranty. You have only one EPS cable running out of this power supply, 124 pin, 2 or basically 4 8 pin for your PCI Express. You have loads of SATA and Molex, so there's that. I placed it right here in this case in the ANTEC NX360, and man, it does really look quite nice, especially because I went with the whole, let's say, yellow and black color theme. Of course, this isn't a custom build, but anyhow, we have the NX360. So this case comes with 3 120 addressable RGB fans on front and one 120 non-RGB at the back. Now, if you decide, for instance, to place a radiator at the top AIO, which is 240, it could be a bit tricky. So, for instance, if you have a high-end motherboard and you want to place it inside this case, you know that IO shields can be a bit larger and thicker, so with that you can't place a 240 radiator on top. I managed to squeeze it somehow, but the radiator top is pushing at the IO cover, so I would suggest either going with motherboards that have a smaller IO cover or just simply place your AIO on front. Now here's the thing, so I had to remove the back rear fan, just place the AIO on top, and I did that only because I wanted to leave the 3 120mm fans on front because they look really nice when you turn on the case, and this is why basically. So you can see you have a mesh front, which is really nice, and you get quite nice airflow through the case. If you decide, and if you really do manage, you could always modify the top and place the radiator on top as I did. You could actually have quite nice design with overall looks and everything else. So the case is quite smaller, I would say, than we're used to. And when we're talking in general, comparing it to past ANTEC cases that I reviewed, this is in the lower tier category, I would say, because this is a budget case and you don't get all the perks that you get with the other cases that I reviewed recently from ANTEC. But in any situation, I think this is quite solid case, though unfortunately I would say that it does miss a couple of things. So for instance, rubber base, or at least something to dampen when tempered glass touches the steel, that would be quite solid and would be quite appreciated, just so the tempered glass doesn't touch the steel directly. There's that. Now right here we have the Sapphire RX 6650 XT Nitro Plus, which fits perfectly inside this case, and you have still enough space if you, for instance, decide to place a 360 radiator on front. So gives you quite nice space, but all in all you could go with a larger card than the RX 6650 XT, but the radiator won't fit on front in that situation. So for instance, leaving those 3 120 which are connected specifically with SATA power, and the only cable that runs out and connects to your motherboard is the 5V 3-pin addressable RGB. The back one is 3-pin DC, and that's basically it. Now here on the power supply shroud, it's a bit different than your usual ANTEC cases. So you have a possibility to mount an SSD on top, and you have quite nice room space for cable management. You have 2 additional holes on the side to reroute 24-pin or any other cable that goes like PWM or something like that, but on top you have loads of space to manage that. And if you somehow manage to place a radiator on top, I would suggest placing the cables, connecting the cables on top before placing the radiator, because otherwise you won't have any possibility to connect them. On the bottom side, basically on the power supply shroud, you have two additional holes for connecting addressable RGB headers, PWM, or just putting the cable for the graphic card directly through there. That's basically it when we're talking about visual aspects. It has a nice front panel. At the top we have a power on button, LED button which controls the front fans, LED button which controls the front fans. You have two 3.5mm jacks, one is for your headset and one is for your microphone, and then you have two USB 2.0 and one USB 3.0. So as I already stated, you can already see that this case is in lower tier compared to the recent cases, but this is more an affordable approach to grab a case and to grab a power supply, because this graphic card actually can run with this power supply, because the minimum requirement for this card is 500 watts. And with the processor, I think that would be quite alright with all the kicks that you place inside, but nevertheless. So thermals, right? AIDA 64 Extreme Edition, only CPU and GPU ticked, 62 degrees on both. But if you place CPU, FPU, cache and system memory, the CPU goes up to 70 degrees Celsius, which I would say is kind of quite alright. First of all, we don't have an exhaust here at the back. The fans on the front are constantly running, so there's that. And I would say that's solid for me. And going in terms of ANTEC in general, you get a quite nice build for a lower price, right? Because we have a case that is in the lower price segment, we have a power supply that is definitely affordable, and you can always go with Vortex 240 addressable RGB, or I even place the katanas inside from ANTEC, the addressable RGB rams, which look outstanding. But that's not the case, well, not the story or the topic of this review video. Today we have a case basically with thinner steel, standard tempered glass with 4 thumb screws. You can access at the back literally everything, and you have a hard drive cage at the bottom which could accommodate one 3.5 inch and one 2.5 inch SSD, or just remove it to get more space for your cables, which in this case, since it is shorter and smaller in general, it would be much appreciated to have a little bit more space. And after all, if you're not in need of running 3.5 inch hard drives, you could always go with M.2 or 2.5 inch SSDs. All in all, I would say quite affordable case, which can give you a nice start in your first PC build or something similar to that, grabbing Csk 550W with the NX360. I think that's a great deal. I'll place the links below for both of these products, so ANTEC NX360 and the Supreme Strike Csk 550W from ANTEC non-modular power supply. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We have a couple of builds coming up. We have loads of reviews, of course, as usual. And with the new year, we'll have some more interesting content coming on different channels as well. So don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss any of those videos and future announcements, of course. And thanks for staying, thanks for watching. Hopefully I will see you in another one. Bye bye.